I'm overwhelmed. It's interesting, and I would just like to say thank each and every one of you for supporting me today on this. As I said from the beginning, I had nothing to do with this case.
Ever wondered what it's like when justice prevails? Let's explore the untold emotional journey of individuals wrongfully imprisoned. From the first breath of freedom to the overwhelming joy of innocence, witness the raw and powerful reactions that defy the confines of injustice. These are the stories of resilience and redemption. Before we begin, like and subscribe if you don't want any of your known buddies to end up in this kind of situation. 7. David Ranta. Meet the man who spent 22 years behind bars for a murder he did not commit. In 1991, Ranta was convicted for the murder of Rabbi Chaskell Wurzberger during a botched robbery in Brooklyn, New York. He was arrested by a detective named Louis Scarcella. Despite maintaining his innocence throughout the trial, Ranta was sentenced to 37.5 years in prison. The case against him was built on shaky evidence and witness testimony, and crucial information that could have cleared him was not presented during the trial. In 2013, new evidence came to light, revealing the crucial information withheld during Ranta's trial. The key witness, who had accused Ranta, changed his story and said that he had been forced to do so by law enforcement. The case against him unraveled, and the court overturned Ranta's conviction. Upon his release, Ranta's emotions overflowed as he embraced his family, expressing relief and disbelief. The weight of injustice lifted. He threw his prison-issued items and clothes into a bag slung over his shoulder, marking the end of a nightmarish ordeal. Recognizing the grave mistake of justice, New York authorities acknowledged the wrongful imprisonment and offered compensation of $6.4 million as a settlement to David Ranta.
Mr. Ranta, to say that I'm sorry for what you have endured would be an understatement and grossly inadequate, but I say it to you anyway. Sir, you are free to go.
6. Ricky Jackson. Meet Ricky Jackson, a man who endured a painful 39 years of wrongful imprisonment for a crime he did not commit. Arrested at the age of 18 in Cleveland, Ohio, Jackson's life took a tragic turn when he was convicted of murder based on the testimony of a 12-year-old witness, Eddie Vernon. The main witness against him was not a witness at all. Eddie Vernon, coerced by the police, testified falsely, leading to Jackson's conviction. Initially sentenced to die in the electric chair, Jackson's sentence was later commuted to life after 2 years. It wasn't until nearly 4 decades later that the truth emerged. Eddie Vernon came forward, admitting he never witnessed the murder. With this revelation, charges against Ricky Jackson were immediately dropped, and the doors of justice swung open to release him. The moment echoed through the courtroom as Jackson heard the liberating words, he was free to go. The weight of decades of wrongful imprisonment lifted, and Jackson emerged into a new chapter of life. In acknowledgement of the grave miscarriage of justice, Ricky Jackson received $1 million as compensation for the years stolen from him, along with an additional $2.6 million as compensation for lost income.
You know, it's extraordinary. I'm very happy. Needless to say, you know, words can't express how I feel right now. I'm just glad to be out, glad to be a free man.
5. Kirsten Lobato. Next on the roster of injustice is Kirsten Lobato, a woman who endured 16 years of imprisonment for a crime she did not commit. At just 18 years old, Lobato found herself charged with the brutal murder of a homeless man in Las Vegas. Initially convicted of first-degree murder, Lobato faced a retrial that resulted in a conviction for lesser charges of voluntary manslaughter. This led to a sentence of 13 to 45 years behind bars. However, after a decade and a half of incarceration, new evidence surfaced, proving that Lobato was 3 hours away from the crime scene on the day of the victim's death. The information completely disproved her conviction, proving Lobato's innocence beyond doubt. Upon her release, Lobato expressed her overwhelming emotions, stating, "I feel excited, I feel grateful, I am just happy." Her words echoed the relief of reclaiming the life that had been unjustly taken away from her. Upon regaining her freedom, Lobato took legal action, filing a lawsuit and a claim for state compensation in July 2019. Her story highlights the importance of scrutinizing evidence and the devastating consequences of wrongful convictions on the lives of those who are caught by a flawed justice system.
I feel overwhelmed. I feel excited. I feel grateful. I'm so happy.
4. Luis Vargas. Next up is the tale of Luis Vargas, who found himself entangled in a web of wrongful accusations that cost him 16 years of his life. Arrested on July 21, 1998, at the age of 29 in Los Angeles, California, Vargas faced a sentence of 55 years to life for crimes he did not commit. Accused of 3 separate sexual assaults, the police believed the descriptions provided by the victims pointed to the same person in all 3 cases. Despite no certainty from the victims during identification lineups, Vargas was convicted on all counts. It wasn't until the California Innocence Project intervened, testing DNA on the remaining physical evidence and the victim's clothing, that the truth came to light. The results proved that Vargas was innocent and that he had not committed the crimes he was accused of. Upon exoneration, Vargas sat silently, absorbing the weight of years unjustly spent behind bars. As a man of simple desires, he expressed a heartfelt wish to his mother upon regaining freedom. "Please buy me a big hamburger and we will all eat it together." This small yet profound request symbolized the lost moments and the hunger for the simple joys of life that wrongful imprisonment had denied him.
He told me, "Mom, when you see me, I am outside, please buy me a big hamburger and we eat it together."
3. Daniel Villegas. In the heart-wrenching saga of Daniel Villegas, the image of wrongful imprisonment cast a shadow over his youth. Convicted for a double homicide at the tender age of 16 in El Paso, Texas, reports surfaced that an El Paso detective, employing threats of beatings and the death penalty, forced Villegas into a confession. Despite his later attempts to retract his confession, it was already too late. Charged with 2 counts of capital murder, Villegas faced a trial where the false confession stood as the sole piece of evidence. The jury, unable to reach a verdict, led to a retrial where, devastatingly, a guilty verdict was returned, condemning Villegas to a life sentence. 18 long years passed, and as a hope of flicker, the verdict was eventually thrown out, granting him a 3rd trial in October 2018. The courtroom became the place where Villegas would learn if he would reclaim his freedom or continue serving a life sentence. In a remarkable announcement, Villegas was declared not guilty. The weight of unjust imprisonment lifted, and Daniel Villegas emerged as a free man, having survived a terrifying ordeal that had taken up almost 2 decades of his life.
The state of Texas versus Daniel Villegas, number 94-0D09328. Verdict Form B. We, the jury, find the defendant Daniel Villegas not guilty of...
2. Clifford Williams and Nathan Myers. Next is the remarkable story of Clifford Williams and his nephew Nathan Myers, who endured a horrible 43 years of wrongful imprisonment in Florida, sentenced to death and life in prison respectively for crimes they did not commit. In 1976, Williams, age 34, and Myers, just 18, became suspects in a murder and attempted murder case. Despite solid alibis, the survivor of the shooting identified both men by name. Within hours, they were arrested and their lives were forever altered. No physical evidence linked them to the crime, yet Williams received a death sentence, and Myers was condemned to life imprisonment. The turning point came when a new investigation on the scene revealed that ballistic reports did not align with the original testimony, the sole evidence connecting the men to the crime. In the courtroom revelation, the judge declared, "Mr. Williams and Mr. Myers, the indictment has been dismissed against you. You are free to go, and we are adjourned." The weight of decades of injustice lifted as the uncle and nephew embraced, sharing the profound moment of freedom, and both men received $2 million from state compensation.
Convictions overturned. A 10-month review of the case by the then newly created Conviction Integrity Review Unit by State Attorney Melissa Nelson's office determined that there was no credible evidence of guilt.
1. Susan Mellon. Now let's see the story of Susan Mellon, a woman wrongfully accused of the murder of her ex-boyfriend, an accusation that led to a life sentence without parole. At the age of 42, Susan was arrested in Los Angeles, California in 1998 based on the testimony of an informant who claimed Mellon had confessed to the killing. For 17 long years, Susan Mellon suffered in prison, her freedom stolen by a witness who was later revealed to be a notorious liar. The informant, who had played a crucial role in Susan's conviction, was exposed as someone prone to giving false testimony to law enforcement. The turning point finally arrived when the truth unraveled. Susan's legal team uncovered the extent of the falsehoods that had led to her imprisonment. Finally, the judge declared, "The judgment is vacated, the conviction overturned, and as for Ms. Mellon, the case is dismissed." As the weight of injustice lifted, Susan embraced her family, and in a moment of pure joy, she danced, celebrating the return of her freedom. Later, addressing reporters, Susan shared, "I always knew that one day, God would bring the truth to light." This shows that even in the darkest moments, the truth will eventually emerge.
I haven't felt it yet. I'm still overwhelmed. I'm shaking. I think I'm just like, it hasn't hit me yet. I haven't had my breakdown yet either. I keep crying and then it stopped. I didn't know how to fight or defend myself at the time. I was in shock, but God actually reversed my death sentence and I'm a free woman now. Want me to do the Running Man?
Which reaction moved you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And now let's look at the one convict who took everyone's life in court to avoid prison.